Hello, everyone. It's Jennifer McCollum from Parent Teens, and I have with me Kat Mulvaney. Hello, Kat.
Hi.
Welcome. I'm so excited. We were chatting before I started recording and just saying how much I need Kat's advice today. So I want to tell you a little bit about Kat, and then I want her to just focus on what I need, and I know a lot of other people need this information too, but the topic today is going to be about our kids and why they don't want to go to school. And when they get to school, why is it sometimes that they just want to come home? So Kat's going to shed the light on this topic for us that is so relevant in our house right now. So thank you. So let me tell you a little bit about Kat. Kat is a family coach who helps you understand your struggling child's big emotions. And she moves your family from surviving to thriving. I absolutely love that. And I can't wait to start thriving. She helps families connect to their sensitive family member who is unable to conform to many of today's mainstream systems. Kat's background in education and yoga has given her pragmatic and holistic tools to help you deal with the anxiety and overwhelm that are occurring daily during your child's most crucial years. She is a passionate advocate for using these strategies, and she's got lots of them. Wait till you hear about them. So she's a passionate advocate for using these strategies to protect kids, and it leads us into a movement of teaching them about the power they hold over emotions, their emotions, and how to reduce substance abuse and suicide in young people. This is an amazing movement that she has created. She has worked to teach people about their power and divinity since 2014, helping families connect to their deepest joy and purpose. Kat resides in Portland, Oregon with her family and enjoys being a mama, traveling, yoga, nature, and local food. And I know, Kat, that you've got so much more to tell us. I can't wait to hear about how you became a holistic family coach. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. So, unlike some coaches out there who experienced solving the problem for their maybe their own child, and that's why they're giving advice. My children do not struggle; they're very young still. But instead, I was the one that struggled as a kid. So I have a very I know exactly what these kids are feeling when they are unable to explain why they don't want to go to school, or they're unable to explain, just these emotions that to them are just so unbearable that they want to stay home, that they that they wish they were sick, because that's what I experienced when I was in elementary school. I would hope that I would be sick. I would try to make myself sick. I was such an empath, but of course I didn't know what that was.
Mm-hmm.
And I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia, and so none of the adults knew in the 80s what that was.
Mm-hmm.
So I literally would jump off like the swing set, trying to see if I could sprain my ankle because so I could stay home, because I was so uncomfortable once I would leave my house. But I didn't know until I was almost 30 why that was. And then when I learned, I became absolutely determined and obsessed to reach parents and explain to them why their children are struggling, that it isn't their fault. It isn't something that the parent or the child is doing wrong, and that very simple solutions exist. And so I wrote a book about it after doing yoga teacher trainings and just endless self-improvement and spiritual workshops, where I learned about my power and the power that I have over releasing and removing emotions from my physical body, from the space around me, that each of us has. I like to call it our fishbowl. The spiritual community calls it your aura. But everyone has this space. It's your energy field, and it's scientifically proven. And we can affect it with our intention and with visualization.
Thank you for sharing that, Kat, and that you had this experience, going through that as a child has such a big impact, because you can really speak authentically to what's going on, and helping us parents now with kids that are struggling. They're not wanting to go to school, or they want to come home. I have one of those myself, and every day, as I said before we started recording, every day I know the phone's going to ring, and sometimes it's just to hear my voice. He wants to just talk about what's going on, or something's bothering him. And other days he's begging for me to pick him up to come home. So I'm really, really happy that we have a chance to talk about this. And I know this is going to be so timely and amazing for our family to just have this insight that you're going to share with us. So the fishbowl, can you tell us about that then? Can you explain what?
Yeah. So while most of us are thinking with just our normal senses, our sight, our hearing, our touch, many people, me, probably your son, tons of children, because children that are being born now are even more empathic and sensitive and in touch with their metaphysical senses. So we don't think about this every day, but we can feel emotions around us. I'm sure you've experienced where maybe you're traveling and you go into a hotel or a restaurant to use the restroom, and it just feels off in that space, like a place you walk into and you feel yucky and you want to leave. That's your not just your intuition, but you're feeling the energy of that space. So I have experienced before where I have a public speaking engagement with like hundreds of children, where I get very, very anxious and actually like vomit before going, because I am picking up on that enormous crowd of people's anxieties and emotions prior to getting there. So if I didn't know that I'm able to do this, I would think I'm sick, I'm crazy, I need to go to the doctor. I would probably be having like a panic attack. But since I know that I have this ability, I'm able to use my tools and my practices to ground myself, to clear myself. And you can use, intention and visualization like I teach on myself. So your son and many kids are waking in the morning, and they're starting to think about the test they have, and the kid that's bullying them, and the teacher they don't think that likes them. And they're feeling all of these anxieties ahead of time. So our fishbowl, like I was saying, we each have an energy field, and it's scientifically proven. So I'm not, suggesting something that is make believe. Like, we all are in a field of energy. I call this a fishbowl because when you get your child a goldfish, and at first the glass bowl is clean and the water is clean and the fish is happy, right? But after a few days, the water is really murky and you can't see the fish very well, and it's kind of slimy. And you know that if you don't change the water, the fish will die. So when our kids are born, they have crystal clear water and everything is clean. But they start taking on the emotions and the trauma and the drama of other people, because the things inside of our fishbowl are contagious. And so they're taking on things and they're feeling things that don't belong to them, but they don't know that, of course. So we start wondering, what's wrong with my 3-year-old, and why is he tantruming every time we go to the grocery store? What's wrong with my 7-year-old, and why does she freak out when we try to go and put her on the bus? Why are they crying and begging at the carpool line to not get out? And why does either the parent or the kid cry every morning? Well, they can't explain it to you, but they are feeling the emotions of the teacher and the school bus driver and the other kids. Just like when I would climb onto the bus as a kid, I could feel the angst of the bus driver who maybe had like an abusive situation at home or was unhappy. When my teacher was divorcing and would cry at her desk during recess, I could feel that. So I was taking that on and not knowing that this had nothing to do with me. There was nothing wrong with me. And it took a very long time to figure that out. So with intention, I learned from one of my very first spiritual teachers that we can take an ordinary object, and instead of describing it in overly spiritual terms where many people you're going to lose them, you can describe things like our energy field with an ordinary object like a fishbowl, because we're very much like a little statue, that you put in the bottom of a fishbowl, our body. And then we have the water around us, and we have this glass. So my fishbowl visualization is extremely simple, and you close your eyes and you imagine you're inside of a fishbowl, and a bright light cleans your body as a little statue, and cleans the water and cleans the glass. And you're quite literally cleaning your auric energetic field with your intention. So if you describe that to a child, they're like, yes, I know what a fishbowl is. And as long as they're willing to try it, so it depends on their age. And that's why sometimes my clients, the parents learn this stuff and then they figure out how to teach it to their kid. But if they're 15 and they think that this idea coming from you might be kind of silly, then I can teach it to them. But that's just one example of a way of teaching the child that, look, you have power over this. If something is making you feel yucky, or you feel nauseous or panicked, or any of the emotions that they can describe to us, that you have the power to sit and remove it and say, I do not want this in my fishbowl, and I command that it leaves.
Okay, I can't tell you how many things we've tried with our son. And you have just described him to a T, because just the other day I was frustrated about something, and he had walked into the kitchen and I went, oh, that's all I did. And it was like the end of the world. It completely threw him right off. I just had this like sigh. And yes, it was a frustration sigh. And he felt that and totally took that on. So, oh my gosh, wouldn't it be amazing if I could just give him a tool to clean his fish tank and not take on all the emotions of everyone around him, because I see that's where a lot of the struggles are too. He is thinking about the difficult things that are happening at school. He's thinking about the, the frustrations of the other kids and the teachers and the, things that just cause angst with him. So carry on. I just wanted to comment about that, because you are spot on.
And what parents don't understand also is that you're the first adult that they're dealing with, in the morning and at home. So very typically, if I work with the parent first, because I need them to understand the principles that I teach before we teach it to the child, that if you're cleaning your own fishbowl, right, like when you wake up, for example, then your child has one less set of emotions to wade through when they wake up in the morning. So just working with the parent alone, and this is not a complicated process, right? I can teach someone to clean their fishbowl in 3 or 4 minutes. The parent can clean their own fishbowl. It already sets their kid up for a better morning, because if the parent is clear, just like we know, more and more parents and more adults are realizing the power of meditation, the power of taking 5 minutes before you leave bed. If you go right to your phone or right to the kitchen to the kids, you don't have that pause to ground yourself and really set an intention for the day. If we can sneak the fishbowl in, and clear us and ground ourselves before we meet the kids, then they're, going to have a much better morning, and they're already set up for success.
So how do you do that then as a family? Are you working with each person in the family to be doing that? Or do you start with—
Well, it depends on most people. If they have several children, there's usually one that's really, the one that's struggling the most. I mean, absolutely anyone can learn it. And I have a video illustration. I actually posted it yesterday to Facebook. That is a visual of someone drawing what it is I'm talking about, so the kid can really see what we're talking about. But yeah, typically in my 12-week program, I work with the parent at least the first few sessions and explain what it is we're doing, because I need them to see the importance of not just saying, hey, this is the kid's issue, but realizing that they're affected greatly by us, and we've been here much longer than them, And we have a lot more trauma and drama in our fish bowls than they do. So I do this practice every day. I dump what doesn't belong to me when I wake. I dump what doesn't belong to me right when I go to sleep, with a separate visualization. But a typical adult whose child is struggling has never heard of anything like this before. So is dealing with, if you can imagine your fishbowl after 40 years, if you've never cleaned it. So just having one session with the parent or the caregiver or the educator, and teaching them to do this simple practice, they're not only going to feel way better and surprised actually that how much better they feel, but their child is going to react differently to them, because even though the child doesn't know that this exists, they're coming, when they walk towards the adult in the morning, they're feeling deeply whatever that adult is dealing with, in addition to what they're dealing with themselves.
And that's an amazing thought to think of, that there is a way, and I can't wait to start doing this. Like, but there's a way to clean my fishbowl so that when he's coming down the stairs in the morning and he already doesn't feel, oh, I'm thinking about work or, packing lunches or activities that night, anything, that I've got a clean fishbowl and he can start clean.
Right.
So then, um, it's I guess we can't teach everyone around him. So when he gets to school and he's surrounded by, the teacher who's upset and can't, is upset with the classroom, or the bullies in the classroom, or kids that are, being too loud because the noise affects him as
Mhm.
well.
Right.
So how then is it something that a technique he would use throughout the day?
Yeah,
Or
I mean, I have lots of tools, right? Like I also do a practice where, I close my eyes, or the child closes their eyes, and they envision stepping inside of like a magic bubble. I usually, for myself, I ask that it's made of quartz, which is just a crystal,
Mhm.
but whatever feels protective and like a superhero container for them, they're going to step into that and seal it up. So then they're in this magic bubble, and they're setting the intention, and they're commanding that nothing may enter this that doesn't belong to my authentic and true self, that this is my space. So then they know that as they're stepping into school, that they're kind of like in their invisible little bubble. And depending on their age, I describe it a different way for each age group. And then they know that they have that security throughout the day. They can do that again later. And if they're feeling super overwhelmed, they can excuse themselves to the bathroom, or maybe if it's an elementary student, they can have an agreement with the teacher that if they're overwhelmed, they're going to let you know. And there's a place that they can sit for a moment, to close their eyes.
Mhm.
With practice, you don't even have to close your eyes. You can just, state that I'm going to move into my bubble now. But they can do the fishbowl, from anywhere if there's something that upsets them. In my post yesterday, I wrote that we all know the feeling of something upsetting happening, and you feel like invaded. Like I saw like a domestic violence situation recently at a gas station,
Mm.
and it's like I got slimed, and I couldn't shake it, and I felt the effects of that for several hours, and I had to sit and it took some effort and really ask that the effects of that, and I had to ask, where in my body am I feeling this, and I had to imagine kind of scooping that out, with love, and asking it to please leave, and putting it like in a little like box, um, and imagining that I'd set it on fire, or that I toss it into the ocean, because whatever I'm intending is happening, because we are in control and in command of our space and how we feel. The problem is that we aren't taught that.
Mhm.
So we feel all these big emotions. I mean, 15 years ago, I would not have known that I had anything in my power to do over that gross and horrible feeling I had after witnessing that. I would have been anxious, been upset, probably had to have 2 glasses of wine at dinner just to try to relax. And I would have felt very much a victim of that encounter. And now I know that I can disengage and detach that experience from my current experience.
I really feel like this is something that should be taught in every school. and
Absolutely.
every family. So tell me about your 12-week course then. So I know you're in Portland, but do you work on Zoom or
Yeah, absolutely.
Skype, or how
Yep,
do you
Zoom
connect
or
with
Skype. I think that having the video is very helpful.
people?
But even if someone can only use the phone, I have my course is also in a video course. So I share that with the clients prior to meeting, so they can watch those videos over and over again and really practice and soak up the information. So I can get them acquainted with the material via video, whether or not we're on Zoom. But yeah, Zoom works great.
Mhm. That's good.
Oh, and
Okay.
then you asked about the 12-week course.
Yes.
In the 12-week course, it depends on the situation and the age of the child, but I tend to start the few first sessions with the parents, um, to make sure they're understanding what it is we're asking the child to learn, and make sure they understand what I'm talking about when I say energy and what I'm talking about when I say the fishbowl. So there's really 5 principles from my book and that I also teach, and I want to make sure the parents have a pretty good understanding of what we're discussing, so we can use the same vocabulary for the tools that their child is going to be using. Because sometimes we might need to give a summary to the teacher, or any other caregiver, so they can remind the child, like, how are you feeling? Or that when the child knows they're starting to feel overwhelmed or anxious, that they can pause, and sometimes they might need the reminder of, you know, have you cleaned your fishbowl, or would you like to clean your fishbowl with me? And they do it together. So I start with the parents, and then we figure out at what point we want to bring the child into the mix. And like I said, if they're, under, say, 8, they're probably pretty, that the parent can probably teach it to them. And it just depends on the relationship with the parent and the child. Like some older, like teens, might be like, Mom, what are you talking about? If you tried to go and teach it to them. So maybe it's better that I describe it to them and teach it to them on Zoom, just like I do with the parent. So it just depends on the situation and the age of the child.
Yeah, my kids would definitely listen to you over what I'm saying.
They'd be like, what, Mom? A goldfish bowl?
You are not cool. I'm going to talk to Kat. Okay, we should talk about your book though. So, A Good Day
Okay.
at School is the
Yeah.
name of your book, and you can get it on your website, which is Kat Mulvaney. So, KAT. I'm going to put it on here after, but
Okay. Okay.
KATMULVANEY.com.
Yeah, you can download it for free in a digital copy from my website.
Mhm.
It's on Amazon. The paperback is on pre-order on Amazon, and it's same with Barnes and Noble and any of your favorite book retailers. And it will be in bookstores in April.
That is so amazing. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Okay, so one last thing, or maybe not one last thing, but I want to make sure parents know how to connect with you. So they can find you on your website.
Yes.
But what's the process? So do you, would they book right into the
The
12
best thing to
weeks?
do. The best thing to do right now is just to email me, and my email is cat@catmulvaney.com, and we can set up a consultation to make sure that we're a great fit to work together, and then move forward from there.
Okay. And one more last thing.
Yeah.
I just want so much of you, and I apologize for asking so many questions, but the
It's
information
okay.
you're giving, I know I'm not the only parent, and thank you so much. Before we had started recording, we were talking a bit about crystals and how you use that. And I just think it's so fascinating because it's not something that I know a lot about, but I'm thinking about ways that my son can maybe understand these concepts better, feel more of a connection to his surroundings, his school, so that he wants to stay at school. And we talked a little bit about crystals, and can you just maybe give us a little tip as parents on
Sure.
if we've got that child who doesn't want to go to school and how the crystals can help him?
Yeah, so these kids that are empaths, and I know because I am one, once we get them connected to the earth, whether that's walking barefoot in the yard and chatting some after school, which is amazing for the whole family, being out in the forest, any other regular grounding things, they're going to feel amazing because once they get those bare feet in the grass, or the hands on like a boulder out in the woods, they're kind of dump. It's like taking their trash out, and they're just going to let it all out into the earth, and it's going to be recycled, and something better can be done with that energy. But one way to bring the earth like into our homes, into our pockets, to school, are crystals. So crystals are not just rocks, like some people call them, but they've been under the earth, like in the ground, for thousands, millions of years. There's tons and tons of crystals. There's a book called The Crystal Bible by Judy Hall, and it's one of the resources that I discuss in my book. It's a wonderful book. It's pretty small, and you can get it on Amazon or at any bookstores. And you can look up in the back symptoms, whether it's anxiety or high blood pressure, tons of symptoms that you can then see the half a dozen crystals that can help with that. And so I use crystals all the time. There's crystals like this is a black tourmaline that I hold in my lap when I'm using a computer or a phone, because it blocks EMFs, and it's also very, very grounding. But so lots of kids like your son that are struggling are going to really get into this, because when they hold them, they may not be able to describe why, but it feels really good. So you can get giant crystals, but you can also get very small pocket-sized ones. So if you can look in your town to see if there's a store to go to, and what I recommend is taking the child and just asking them to kind of see which ones call to them, which ones they choose without any direction or not knowing what they're called. And then ask the store clerk, what is this called? And then you can look it up in that Bible and see what it is. And sometimes they pick out really amazing ones that are perfect for them. There's also some resources in my book of people who have websites or who are crystal dealers who travel the world and go to shows and buy them. And so I have someone who's kind of my crystal person, and I can tell them what I'm looking for or what characteristic I need, and she recommends, and she can ship them, around the world. But kids like your son, if they can start a collection where maybe you give him one for his birthday and then one for the holidays, then before school, he can go and look at his collection and kind of intuitively pick which ones he wants to put in his pockets, which one he wants to put on his desk during a test. And they're just really they feel like my friends, and the kids get really excited about them. So my children pick one to put by their bed at night. And they know they hold it to their heart and kind of tell me how it makes them feel. So for me, it's a great tool and really easy to get kids hooked on them.
And it sounds like something my son would get right
Yeah.
into. He collects everything, like hockey cards, anything he can. So I really think that that's a great suggestion. And because it's so close to the holidays, I can think about making it a special gift for him as well, and just
Totally.
special for him because he also likes to feel like he has something special to himself too.
Yeah, and if you tell kids that they're magic, that they came from the center of the earth, and that they're just, and then they can feel it when just like when you're at the beach and you get a seashell, and it kind of feels like it has that vibration of the big majestic ocean. That's exactly what crystals do.
And to give them that at school, so something to hang on to keep in his pocket, that's beautiful.
Yeah, and it can stay in their bag. If they, the last thing you want to do is like have them put a crystal on their desk and someone tease them. But some of the older kids are okay with that, and and I've heard of kids starting to have practices like this, and that other kids ask about it because they can feel the power of the crystal as well. And then it turns into a conversation piece and not something to be teased about, but something to connect them to other people. And then you could give one to the teacher, and really kind of like you could give the teacher a gift of a crystal, one that will help your child and the other kids, and the teacher can put it on their desk, and it helps, kind of the entire group.
What a great idea. There you go. Teacher gifts all done.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you so much, Kat. I so appreciate you speaking with us today about the fishbowl and how we're going to clean our fish bowls. And you've just spoke to so many things that we're dealing with in our family, and I know there's many others. So I'm going to make sure that everyone has a link to Kat's website. Kat's also on our Parent Teens website, but make sure you go and download her book for free, or order it on the pre-sale on Amazon. So the links are all
Yeah.
on your
And
website.
on my YouTube and my Facebook has a video that walks you through the fishbowl visualization with a graphic, so you can see exactly what it is if you're not able to visualize very well.
That's amazing. Thanks so much, Kat.
Thank you. I love
See you
speaking with you.
again. Take care.
Okay, bye bye.
Bye-bye.